When I was 26, I was left an orphan. My parents were returning from a vacation when a truck crashed into their car. The truck driver fell asleep at the wheel. Nobody survived. My parents didn't have any close relatives. They were both only childs in their families, and my grandparents died young. I was renting an apartment in the city with my best friend Maya. We were even born on the same day. In fact, we were very different. We fought 1,000 times, but we always made up and remained on good terms. Maya had recently gotten married, divorced, and had already fallen in love again, while I loved numbers and mountains. Back when we were young, my peers played with dolls, then boasted of new phones, computers, spent their time on social media, went on dates, had their first sexual experience, while I was always busy calculating something. At school, I loved to solve complex math problems, took part in competitions, and dreamed of how I would win some prestigious competition and be able to study at the best university in the country. Unfortunately, despite my bright mind, I was never destined to take anything but a second or a third place. Since my parents were against giving any kind of gifts to my teachers, they were too upstanding for it. And that's how they taught me to live my life too. After school, I graduated from college with a degree in economics and got a job at a construction company where my parents worked. My dad was a foreman, and my mom was an accountant. I was well received in the team, mostly made up of men. My parents rubbed their hands thinking that I would quickly find a suitable match. But quickly doesn't work with me. No, I wasn't prudish. I had an older boyfriend in college. We were in a relationship for over a year, but then he moved to another country and didn't invite me to go with him. He quickly forgot all about me, which means that he never actually loved me to begin with. Thus, I sort of closed myself off to new relationships. I didn't meet new people. I rarely went out. After work, I usually watched movies or played checkers on the computer. It was one of my hobbies. Soon, Maya moved out to live with her new boyfriend, and I was left with my memories, checkers games, and loneliness. My friend tried to set me up with her boyfriend's friends several times, but I didn't need anything or anyone. One day, when I was taking out the trash, I accidentally stepped on the paw of a black and red dog, which apparently was hiding from the pouring rain. The poor fellow whimpered so much that I immediately jumped back in surprise. It seemed that the dog was thrown out onto the street by unscrupulous owners because it was a shepherd puppy, and even with a personalized collar, I felt sorry for the foundling, but I couldn't know what had really happened to him. What if I took this puppy home and someone was actually looking for him, I thought. But it's already getting dark. I shouldn't leave the poor fellow outside in such weather, especially since there are a lot of stray adult dogs around. They could attack him. Looking into the eyes of the little stray, I plunged into childhood memories for a minute, remembering my favorite dog, Milo. Tucker looked a lot like him. I managed to make out the puppy's name on the tag on his collar. As a little girl, I always begged my parents for a dog, but my mother was allergic to dog hair, and my father thought that having a dog in the house was unnecessary trouble. Thus, I spent a lot of time with my friend's dog. Maya and I lived next door, so I spent all my free time with my friend and her pet Milo. Maya's father raised his daughter alone. He doted on her and gave her a German Shepherd puppy for her birthday, making her dream come true. It seemed to me then that my wish had also come true, because I loved that dog with all my heart. But unfortunately, our joy with Maya didn't last long, exactly until her father's new girlfriend moved in with them. Milo never knew the chain, but as soon as Jill appeared at the house, the woman demanded that the dog no longer run around the yard. For some reason, the dog didn't like her. Apparently, he felt that something was off with that woman. Maya and I felt sorry for Milo. We played with him, fed him, and just sat next to him for hours, sharing our stories and worries with him. The dog was always very affectionate, and every day he looked forward to our arrival from school. One day, when I ran to visit Maya, I saw that Milo was laying on his side and breathing heavily. Having called Maya, we rushed to give the dog some water to drink, but he only whined plaintively and closed his eyes. Forever. I don't think I ever felt so much pain before. As it turned out, Jill had poisoned our pet. A lot of time has passed since then, but the memory of the loyal friend has been living in my heart ever since. Meeting Tucker made me feel so good that I decided to take the puppy home with me. From our first days together, the dog didn't make any trouble. He ate everything I gave him and patiently waited for me to come home from work, as well as learn the schedule of our walks. Together, we moved from the apartment to a spacious townhouse with a patio. Every morning we went to the local park for a run, and in the evenings, we watched movies wrapped up in a warm blanket. Tucker became my true friend and protector. The dog attended cynological classes and skillfully carried out all sorts of commands. During one of our walks, my tailed friend broke off the leash and ran away. I panicked because this had never happened before. It was getting dark outside, and there wasn't a single person around. I ran around calling Tucker's name for over an hour, but eventually, I gave up and sat down on a bench. I couldn't help but start crying. I was feeling hopeless and blamed myself for losing Tucker. I didn't know what to do. Then, suddenly, I heard loud barking. Tucker rushed towards me, grabbed my leg, and started pulling me somewhere. Realizing that my friend wanted to show me something important, I followed him. The dog stopped near a lawn on which a young man was lying. He's probably homeless or drunk, I thought, but Tucker didn't let up. He whined and wagged his tail, running around the stranger. "Do you want me to look at this man?" I said. "Okay, I'll take a look and even help him get on his feet, although it's rather scary." "Hey, sir? Sir, you should go home. Get some rest." It's weird. Where did he get so drunk? He looks neat and his clothes are clean, and there's no smell of alcohol either. Something's off here. I need to call an ambulance. Fortunately, the doctors arrived in a matter of minutes. The man really did need help. He had a stroke. Tucker and I accompanied the stranger to the hospital, and an hour later, the doctor came out of the ICU and said that we had saved that man. The patient got to the hospital on time, and they already started his treatment, so there was a good chance that he would recover without any complications. We returned home feeling very content with ourselves. I don't know why, but the next day, I went back to the hospital to see how Connor was doing. The man was still in intensive care, but the nurse told me that she managed to get a hold of the patient's friend, whose phone number was the last in the list of incoming calls on his mobile phone. Connor's friend paid for the treatment and asked to do everything possible to make sure the young man recovers fully. He also said that Connor was away on a business trip for a long time. He worked very hard, and when he returned, his wife left him for another man. Connor was devastated, and then his mother died. It was all probably too much for him. I really wanted to support Connor. A week later, the man began to talk quietly, and my visits to the hospital became even more frequent. Connor was kind and calm. When he found out that I had saved him, he held my hand for a long time, tried to say something, and started crying. I was crying too. To brighten up the mood, I told him that it was actually my dog, Tucker, that he owed his life to, and not me. "Tucker?" the man drawled in a weak voice and smiled gently before falling asleep. A couple of weeks later, Connor was discharged from the hospital. When he got to meet Tucker, they were both very emotional. As it turned out, Connor bought a German Shepherd puppy 6 months ago, when he was trying to recover after his ex-wife's betrayal and his mother's death. In order to not feel so alone, the man decided to get a dog friend. He grew very attached to him and loved him dearly. Unfortunately, during one of their walks by the lake, the puppy ran away and got lost in the crowd, and Connor never managed to find him. It's hard to believe that it wasn't fate that brought us all together. Fortunately, Connor recovered almost completely. He only lost the ability to feel pain, heat, or cold in his legs. However, even these symptoms went away with time, and probably at least partially thanks to Tucker, who always curled up at Connor's feet like a cat. Also, Connor and I got married, and our favorite dog Tucker was both the best man and the maid of honor at our wedding. Now he is trying on the role of a nanny, and he's great at it. Our twins, Sam and Sophia, love him very much. Every year at Christmas, the whole family remembers the story of how our now old faithful friend saved the life of a sick man, and got him a wife.